Modern Real Estate Practice, page 314. Page 315. Unit 17. Closing the real estate transaction. Learning objectives. When you have finished reading this unit, you will be able to describe the specific steps and processes involved in order to achieve conveyance of clear and marketable title, including compliance with all applicable laws. Describe the closing procedures and the respective roles of all parties. Explain the provisions of the Real Estate Settlement Procedures Act, RESPA, and the Mortgage Disclosure Improvement Act, MDIA. Describe and explain all buyer and seller charges and credits contained in the closing statement. Explain the financial entries and mathematical calculations contained in the closing statement. Review and confirm the accuracy of a closing statement and define the following key terms: accrued items, affiliated business arrangement, ABA, closing disclosure, closing statement, credit, debit, escrow accounts, escrow closing, impound accounts, loan estimate, Mortgage Disclosure Improvement Act, MDIA, mortgage servicing transfer statement, prepaid items, prorations, Real Estate Settlement Procedures Act, RESPA, survey. Page. Page 316, overview. The conclusion of the real estate transaction is the closing, when title to the real estate is transferred in exchange for payment of the purchase price. Until closing preparations begin, a real estate professional's relationship is primarily with the buyer or the seller. During the closing period, new players come on the scene: appraisers, inspectors, loan officers, insurance agents, and lawyers. Negotiations may continue, sometimes right up until the property is finally transferred. A thorough knowledge of the closing process is the best defense against the risk of a transaction failing. Pre-closing procedures. Closing involves two major events. First, the promises made in the sales contract are fulfilled. Second, the mortgage funds are distributed to the buyer. Before the property changes hands, however, each party, buyer and seller, usually will have specific concerns that must be addressed. As emphasized previously, the closing process is based on the provisions of the sales contract, making it important that the parties treat the negotiation for the purchase of the property, the process of offer and accept, very seriously. Many real estate professionals maintain a list of events that must take place prior to the actual closing in order to avoid surprises that may lead to delays. Buyer's issues. Both the buyer and the buyer's lender must be sure that the seller can deliver the title that was promised in the purchase agreement and that the property is now in essentially the same condition it was in when the buyer and seller agreed to the sale. This involves examination of the results of any inspections, such as termite or structural inspections, or required repairs. The survey. The title evidence, including the seller's deed and any documents demonstrating the removal of undesired liens and encumbrances, and any lease if a tenant resides on the premises. Final property inspection. In the real estate contract, the buyer usually reserves the right to make a final inspection, often called a walkthrough, shortly before the closing takes place. The buyer, accompanied by the real estate professional, verifies that necessary repairs have been made, that the property has been well maintained, that all fixtures are in place, and that no unauthorized removal or alteration of any part of the improvements has taken place. It is not a time to reopen negotiations, but to verify that the condition of the property is in compliance with the terms of the contract. See Figure 17.1. Closing is the point at which ownership of a property is transferred in exchange for the payment of the purchase price. Page 317, Figure 17.1. For your protection, get a home inspection. Caution. U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, Federal Housing Administration, FHA. For your protection, get a home inspection. Why a buyer needs a home inspection. A home inspection gives the buyer more detailed information about the overall condition of the home prior to purchase. In a home inspection, a qualified inspector takes an in-depth, unbiased look at your potential new home to evaluate the physical condition, structure, construction, and mechanical systems. Identify items that need to be repaired or replaced, and estimate the remaining useful life of the major systems, equipment, structure, and finishes. Appraisals are different from home inspections. An appraisal is different from a home inspection. Appraisals are for lenders. Home inspections are for buyers. An appraisal is required to estimate the market value of a house, make sure that the house meets FHA minimum property standards / requirements, and make sure that the property is marketable. FHA does not guarantee the value or condition of your potential new home. If you find problems with your new home after closing, FHA cannot give or lend you money for repairs, and FHA cannot buy the home back from you. This is why it is so important for you, the buyer, to get an independent home inspection. Ask a qualified home inspector to inspect your potential new home and give you the information you need to make a wise decision. Radon gas testing. The United States Environmental Protection Agency and the Surgeon General of the United States have recommended that all houses should be tested for radon. For more information on radon testing, call the toll-free National Radon Information Line at 1-800-SOS-RADON or 1-800-767-7236. As with a home inspection, if you decide to test for radon, you may do so before signing your contract, or you may do so after signing the contract, as long as your contract states the sale of the home depends on your satisfaction with the results of the radon test. Be an informed buyer. It is your responsibility to be an informed buyer. Be sure that what you buy is satisfactory in every respect. You have the right to carefully examine your potential new home with a qualified home inspector. You may arrange to do so before the signing your contract, or may do so after signing the contract, as long as your contract states that the sale of the home depends on the inspection. End of page.